Welcome to Whistle Talks.
Hey, what's going on? I'm excited to be here and love nothing more than talking about revenue operations and top of funnel and all those things.
Before we get into the topic of setting yourself up with a lead generation partner, could you maybe tell us a little bit about your background
Sure.
in the industry of sales?
So I started a recruiting firm in 2001 with friends and really learned the power in recruiting of what you can do in 100 phone calls a day. Did quite well in doing it and ended up starting a BDR firm in 2005, where I sold myself my own calls at phone calls at $5 per cold call. That was the going rate. And you do the math at 100 calls a day. You know, back in the day, that was really kind of all you had. And but went out there and built that and did really well and got involved in a lot of different companies, leading sales, being the founding salesperson, selling everything, video to everything in between, and then started a social agency which focused on business development and marketing in 2009, which was a bit before social media kind of hit its thing, and that launched me into a number of other ventures and businesses and so forth. Ultimately, being able to lead teams in cybersecurity and working as the senior vice president of sales operations for a company called Science, which is similar to Whistle. It's not in its stage of what it was there, but it had 1,200 BDRs, messaging specialists, all that on my team, and got to see it from all levels of how it works. Great when it doesn't work and the things in between. And now I work as a fractional CRO for a number of companies, focusing on the growth of of course, their top of funnel, but also everything that has to move through their mid to bottom of funnel and adoption and expansion with my favorite acronym of NRR, net revenue retention.
Wow, really impressive. So that's why we're so honored to have you here with us. Hopefully, someone can learn from your expertise. So, to jump into today's topic, speaking of working with a lead generation partner, obviously, we want to try and maximize the outcome of a partnership with a lead generation partner or agency. Would you say there is a specific tactic or sales cycle that works for everyone?
I think the tactical sales cycle that works for everyone is net revenue retention. The hard part about it is that you have to focus on your revenue, and getting revenue means you got to focus on your top of funnel. Your mid funnel has to be good also. It turns out you got to close it, and it's not just because, hey, we get them on the phone, we close them, don't worry. And then you have to actually got to close them and project it, and then be able to make sure they adopt it and use it. So all of those things from a tactical standpoint, they all have similar functions in between. You got to call people. I just actually put out today is Halloween, the day we're recording this, and I put out an article on Revenue Magazine called "I Ain't Afraid of No Ghost" because there's no such thing as ghosting. It just means you ain't followed up enough yet, right?
I love that so
The
much.
tactical function is the same for everybody. It's all sales. The hard part is there is not a magical fix out for there. There is not a go out there and get another tool and it's going to fix it for you. It turns out you got to make phone calls, right? Sometimes you can just do it off email. Sometimes you can just do it off whatever. But the phone calls is kind of like do the hard thing, get that done, and then maybe some of the easy stuff works too. Who knows?
So it's like the phone calls are the hard part, get that over and done with.
And live in it. And it's your biggest data point, right? If you talk with somebody, I get loads of data. Am my ICP correct? Are you actually interested? Why do you actually like this? Whatever. But an email back, a message, whatever. You're spending all this time working on this very thing that doesn't give you a lot of data, but all of them together do. So an outsourced partner, a lead generation partner becomes very valuable because all of this stuff on a scalable level is now able to be done in a way that you can qualify and quantify it relative to the outcomes that you need to report upon from KPIs, but also from just downright, hey, are we getting revenue into the cycle here?
And you mentioned KPIs. Speaking of KPIs, could you give us a few examples of KPIs that are related to lead generation?
The first thing you want to be able to have is understanding how many calls you need made a day. And you go, I don't know. Well, how many calls do you need what do you, it's a very nebulous term, but it starts with how many calls do you want done each day? Because that's how people you're reaching out to. And then from there, you're ultimately able to find out your connection rate, meaning is your data on?
Yeah.
And then from your connection rate, are you actually talking to people that are qualified to talk to that you're connecting with? So as you build down, you're like, hey, we need at least 300-400 phone calls per day to get a connect rate and so forth. Now you're building back saying, well, maybe that's one resource. Maybe that's two resources. Maybe that's using an outbound calling tool, parallel dialer or power dialer. There's ways you can understand that from once you say, we project getting this much of connection relative to the amount that are going out. And when you have a lead generation partner, you're able to say, this is what we think. I've had people say to me, I think we need to make 30 phone calls per day. And I'm like, awesome. So you must be talking to all 30 of those people then, right? Oh, no, we'll probably connect with, but I don't even know. How many will we connect with out of 30? Bingo. Now you're talking, well, let's maybe slide it up a bit and put that becomes understand as a basic function of how many people you have to reach out to then define who you're talking to and qualifying and so forth and so on.
What exactly does the lead generation agency do?
So the lead generation agency is going to create leads for you. Now, the leads that they're going to create can be a lot of different ways. They can be warm leads. They can be super hot leads. They can be, meetings booked, whatever the case may be. But your lead generation agency is going to reach out upon your behalf and is going to create the leads relative to what you need. Now, the part of being able to have them as a partner is you can say, this is what we want to do with them. Because if you just say, we want demos. Well, that's really great. Thank you, 2019, for calling in to the show. But please define what you want to have happen from them. We want to tell them all about our services. Okay, great. What about your services? Now you start building back to what do you want to have happen from this generation of this lead? And you're giving the insights to exactly what needs to come out. That gives the quickest engagement of data and return on investment while being able to move towards revenue going into the pipeline. And that can then move, a lead can be anywhere across the pipeline itself. It's what you want to have happen from that connection being obtained, turning into then a lead, but not hard-coded into just the top of the funnel. It can be in a lot of different places inside of there.
Do you think that companies should use one specific lead generation agency or test out a few?
I think what you're going to do is you're going to talk to a lot of people. I think you're going to find a relationship with different ones that work in different ways. But ultimately, you want to find people you can work with. So if that's one for you, great. If that's multiple relative to parts of the world, excellent. If it's because you want to be able to have different verticals you're going after relative to they're going to have experience inside of there or just overall abilities, I think it's really understanding the outcome is you want to be able to create return on investment and revenue, not I can only have one lead agency or I need to have multiple. I think that is a sliding scale, but the focus on what gives you the best return on investment and optimization of the process becomes the leading, the leading role to play.
And with that being said, how long should we wait until we need to see results before we move on?
Well, I think you have to ask yourself, like if you're moving on from something, you really got to go ask yourself here. What have you done?
Yeah.
Right. And by you, I mean, I have multiple outsourced BDR teams working present day. The man or woman in the mirror. Okay. Michael Jackson said it best. But you've got to ask yourself what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. If you're pointing fingers saying this isn't working, that isn't working, that isn't working, one finger's pointing, three are coming back. Right. So ask yourself, what are you doing to make this work? Right. And then from there, as you're looking for results, where are those results then they're coming from? And what are the results that you're asking for? And from the data you're getting, because here's the thing, you can go in and say, I'm not getting enough results, I'm moving.
Yeah.
Now you have to move and go and find out. Now, if you're working with a group and they're showing up and nothing's happening and their engagement with you and their customer service is not great, and they're just going down the list of they're not providing a quality service, I mean, email the CEO of that company and let them know directly. If you feel that strongly about what you're experiencing and it's not great, light them up. You're paying for it. Who cares?
Wow.
Right? That's real. But if you're going in and saying, well, I'm just expecting to get it, my arms are crossed, and you guys need this, I gave you the worst list possible, you really got to go in and do your own inventory here. Are you giving this team the ability to succeed? Are you giving them the best leads, right? The pink leads, so to speak. And if you're not, why not? Do you want to succeed here, or you want to show that you're showing somebody how they can't make it, right? I'm like this. I want to see the most wins happen out of everything. I'm going to give you the best opportunity to get all of those wins. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to be completely available, everything. And if it doesn't work, peace out. Didn't work, right? So I think it's rather than it's a time set, it's more of your investment of engagement. And if you're not getting what you need, then you need to then make sure you're communicating it quickly and vibrantly. And then if you've done that and you're still not getting anything, I got plenty of providers that I use that are horrible. The worst customer service I've ever seen in my life on some of these SaaS tools. Unbelievable. Won't name them. Some of them are so good at being able to provide their service that I just have to look past it. Others can't wait to get out of them, right? So I think it's rather than looking at the time frame, it's what you're getting from a service standpoint, and ultimately looking at yourself, what you're providing. And then if you're not getting what you need, out like shout.
Is there anything else that you'd like to speak about with regards to lead generation?
You have to focus on the outcome. So it's hard to focus on the outcome. They'll focus on writing the perfect email or saying the perfect opener or saying, do you have 27 seconds to talk, which I think no one in their right mind should ever say in their life again in the world. Or dreadful. Or they're focusing on all of the things that they don't need to focus on.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing. They're focusing on all the things that doesn't matter. Right. So if you're in anything, in any game, in any process, it's really you've got to focus on what's going to get you forward. And I've had plenty of conversations where it's the outbound tools problem, it's this problem, it's that problem, it's the problem. It's not what you can do to move it forward. So from having a lead generation agency, what you can do to focus on being able to give them the biggest win, or from lead generation overall, what you're doing to play the game to win. And that's the biggest gap I see, especially with what we have, especially coming in our sales culture and everything else. There's plenty of people telling you all these other things you can do, right? But they're not telling you, hey, you need to go in there and put as many phone calls out as you can per day. You need to get as much activity as you can per day. And that's the gap. And if you're focusing on that, doing the things that work, that have worked forever, we're just making phone calls, right? We're just reaching out. So don't try and do the easy thing and then say that you're a specialist at doing the easy thing, right? So I'm a dishwasher loader specialist, right? That's what a lot of people are putting out there. Be the specialist in doing the hard things. Be the specialist in doing the things that make it uncomfortable. And ultimately, when you're working with the lead generation agency, be the person who is part of the team that is consistently wanting to move it forward. And again, if you don't get the response back from your team, you'll know, but be the most vocal, put them into your Slack channels, get them involved, and that becomes you're doing the thing that isn't being done. And as we all know, the way to win is to outwork the competition. And the only way to outwork the competition is to outwork the competition. So there you go.